On this session again, which we will discuss localizing aid. Around the world, in multiple humanitarian crises and development situations, the issue of aid localization is crucial. There is a growing realization across the humanitarian system that creating stronger partnerships and greater inclusivity between international organizations and national NGOs is crucial to developing better aid delivery. However, the question is how we can empower these local agencies. In this interesting session today, we will raise issues related to localization of aid, which is one of the most debated topics in the field of aid. So we're going to discuss how, why, and we're going to advance it. But first, let us welcome our guest today, His Excellency Al-Hajj Asi, who's from the Secretary General of the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent, and His Excellency Ambassador Mahbub Maalem, the Executive Secretary of IGAD, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, His Excellency Dr. Saleh Shaibani, Secretary General of the Arab Red Crescent and Red Cross Organization, and His Excellency Gilles Carbonnier, who is the Vice President of the International Committee of the Red Cross, and His Excellency Panos Momsis, Assistant Secretary General, the UN Regional Humanitarian Coordinator for the Syria crisis, and Her Excellency Professor Nazila Gang from the University of Oxford, who teaches international humanitarian rights law. And I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Nivina Afyouni. I'm a Chief Sub-Editor for Sky News Arabia. So I want to start with Your Excellency, Mr. Asi. You know, change can be hard, and when it happens, it makes us all think, who's there first? What does localization of humanitarian aid mean in practice?
Thank you very much. I think the interest, on the topic and the way you introduce it begs, the very simple observation that shocks and hazards do first and foremost happen at the local level. When we talk about a global epidemic, the first case happened in a remote village at a very local level. When we talk about a flood, it hit at a local level. When there is an earthquake, that is the same. When people are struggling, to meet their ends needs and trying to develop strategies for survival for their own well-being and the well-beings and their families, it happens at the local and community level. And that is no coincidence that even in the context of development and the SDGs, a great emphasis is being put, on what is called, the last mile to walk, to reach the hardest to reach and the most vulnerable, because that's where, the problems happen. If it is true, and I believe it is, that shocks and hazards happen at the local level, the efficient response, to it, will be at the local level too. So localization means, to put in the limelight local action first, the action that needs to be taken at the local level in order to address the challenges that people are facing. And from there then only can we talk about who are those actors that are there first. But it is not enough to be there first. It is important to be there all the time, to be there before, to be there during, and to be there after. Because that is in that continuum that what all the ingredients of localization comes in. How do you build trust with communities in order to address the most important challenges they face? How can you address difficult issues that are related to culture, related to tradition, related to norms and values and behaviors and attitudes? None of those, can be built in the middle of a crisis. They can only be built, through a long-term partnership. And who are those actors? That are exactly those that are emanating from those very communities that are affected, and then those that, no matter how quick any of us, goes, to a disaster scene, we will always find people there responding first. That is the neighbor helping the neighbor. That is the host communities that are welcoming the refugees. That are those, people that are there and then sharing sometimes the last loaf of bread they have or the last grain. And from there, the different forms of organization of the communities come in, that along whom we count the volunteers of Red Cross and Red Crescent, 17 million on the ground in those communities, speaking the language, understanding the culture, and engaging with them. Among them, the national societies of Red Crescent and Red Cross in 190 countries. So supporting them is in the spirit of strengthening the local action we are talking about. Of course, when we mention that in settings like this, we can jump very quickly to talk about the funding and the financing of those actors, which is important, and I hope we'll come back to that. But as an introduction, I wanted to make sure that the discussion about money does not overshadow what really means the importance of local action and local actors, that is the proximity, the acceptance, the trust that you can build, but at the same time to create the enabling and safe environment for longer-term partnership, and that is the only way that we can, in the longer term, make sure that our efforts will be sustainable and local action remains the meaning that you should have. But at the same time to create...
Thank you, Your Excellency. Mr. Ma'allim, there's a saying we have in Arabic that Makkah adra bisha'abiha, and I'm sure everybody knows this. So the locals are always more aware about the crisis and how to solve it. Sometimes, as His Excellency Mr. El-Hajj says, they lack the expertise, they lack the funding and all these. We're going to talk about it. But the local grassroots organizations with a presence in a community are more trusted by those communities. Their local knowledge enables them to understand the context in which they are operating. However, we hear a lot from local NGOs that they always lack funds, as this is a point that Mr. Al-Hajj also addressed. So they always lack the fund from the international organizations. Or it goes through the bureaucratic process. So why do we, is it better to leave it for the locals, or who decides when the international agencies should intervene in a crisis?
Thank you so much, Madam Nivine. First and foremost, since I have the floor in the main plenary, I want to take this opportunity to thank the people and the government, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for this wonderful opportunity they gave us for organizing this very good meeting, and for all the hospitality they have accorded to us. And thanks specifically Dr. Rabi', who has personally been involved with this with us for a long time. We congratulate you for good effort and assure you of our support. But coming back to the subject matter, I listened to a politician once upon a time, and it was a he, so don't get worried, Nivine. And he was arguing that all politics was local. So I did not agree with him fully, and it was a he. But so trying to remember the gist of the matter that he was trying to explain, I think all aid should be local, and is local. Right. Just like he was arguing that all politics was local. Village, so I did not agree with him fully, and so he. But trying to remember the gist of the matter that he was trying to explain. To work there. I think so. The first port of call really is local. Right. And just like he was arguing that all politics was local. International agency. So I did not agree with him fully, and so he. But trying to remember the gist of the matter that he was trying to work there. I think so. The first port of call really ask them to go through a rigorous process. And he was arguing that all politics was local. Not only national agency. So I did not agree with him fully. So who are good people trying to remember who really can work there, can do the work. So the first port of call we ask them to go rigorous through a rigorous process. And he was arguing that all politics was local. Not also national agency. So I did not agree with him fully. So who are good people trying to remember who really can work there, can do the work. So the first port of call we ask them to go rigorous through a rigorous process. And he was arguing a long experience where people want to be at a distance a little bit and operate from a distance, supposedly because conducive or not environmental conducivity for those who are supposed to provide aid is not proper for them. That itself really distances you from the people you are supposed to help. But also equally important is to find an entry. As soon as you hit the ground, you find an entry identify community leadership, which you alluded to, Divine. Look at identifying first liners, those who, even in your absence, who at the middle of the night or the last quarter of the night or early in the morning, whenever the occurrence or the event happened, who rushed to their neighbors in a bid to try and help. A lot of times there are people who naturally do that and who are known, so identify them. Look at the first liners. Immediately grasp the issue of sensitivities, the do's and the don'ts, that people would easily classify you accordingly. Look at the complementarities very quickly with local administration and people. So give yourself an entry level of acceptability as quickly as you can. And then try to identify local organizations and community, local institutions that you can quickly partner with and work through. Look at how you could affect the local economy positively by trying your best as much as you can not to bring so many things with you. Try to get as many things as you can at the ground level. The reason being, as soon as something happens, people's purchasing power, people's ability to access needs that they require to pay for through cash will be undermined. So you come in and you try to provide small cash in exchange for what you wanted done, and therefore you can affect the local economy positively. And look at the kind of systems where you can facilitate local organizations as quickly as you can. Look at the capacities. Look at the question of how you could operate through some of the organizations that's on the ground, particularly not only the local organization in a particular place, but look at the regionalness of nature of interventions you want to do, because as you know, a lot of these occurrences or events do not take place in vacuum and do not know boundaries, and therefore you look at legitimacy organizations that can help you do things through an interregional kind of and cross-border kind of mechanisms would be very, very helpful. And equally important, the issue of transparency that begins with yourself as the first-line deliverer of aid. So really, these are quick win situations that you must put into play immediately you can, and then give the momentum for operationalization of the aid. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Mr. Sahibani, do you agree with Mr. Muallim? Humanitarian aid has to be. When is the right time to ask local NGOs to work on certain disasters or crises, and when is it not?
الله وبركاته. ابتداء أقول ثار القريض بخاطري فدعوني أفشي لكم بسعادتي وسروري أنا أكون بينكم المنتدى الرائع. وإن نسيت فلا أنسى أن أشكر حكومة المملكة العربية السعودية، ولعلي أكثر هذا القائد قد لا يستطيع أن يعبر عن شكري وامتناني وتقديري للمملكة العربية السعودية على استضافتها لهذا المنتدى، وكذلك رعايتها وتبنيها للهلال الأحمر والصليب الأحمر التي أنشأتها قبل 43 عاما من الدعم والتمويل والاستضافة. وأذكر بكثير من الفخر جمعياتنا الوطنية العربية التي تدعم هذه المنظمة وتحقق بالفعل هذا التوطين الذي نراه على أرض الواقع الآن، وإن كان لا يحقق الطموح الذي نسعى إليه. فعلى رأس تلك هيئة الهلال الأحمر السعودي الداعم والفاعل الرئيس في المنظمة، بالإضافة إلى منظماتنا وجمعياتنا الخليجية والعربية الأخرى التي إلى الخليج، لأن كما تعرفون المنظمة العربية هي مظلة ل 21 جمعية. ولا أنسى والفخر والاعتزاز جهود اللجنة الدولية للصليب الأحمر وجهود الاتحاد الدولي وجهود جميع المنظمات الإنسانية التي تعمل على أرض الواقع، ونراها بالفعل تحقق توطينات وفق أعمال كثيرة. جزء منها يتم التعاون والتعامل الرائع مع المنظمة العربية، وجزء منها آخر يتم تنفيذ الواقع. السؤال رائع في الواقع، والأروع منه هو لماذا نحرص على توطين المساعدات؟ في الحوادث تنامي الأستاذ سالم الساعدي هو الذي غششني قبل أن أحضر لهذا اللقاء ببعض الأفكار أيضا من منظمة. لماذا نحرص على توطين المساعدات؟ لأنه في حالة توطين المساعدات سنكون أكثر استجابة، بلا شك أن الكارثة تحتاج استجابة، ولهذا تحرص الجمعيات الوطنية على بناء قدراتها وتنمية كذلك مهارات متطوعيها لذلك من أعمال كثيرة. أذكر أيضا جهود اللجنة الدولية في سوريا تحديدا، كيف لو لم تكن هذه الجهود قائمة. أنا أعطي فقط سوريا تحديدا لأن المسائل في سوريا حقيقة المساحة أكبر مما هي عليه الآن. اللجنة الدولية لها جهود طيبة، توزع البذور مع الاتحاد الدولي أيضا والمواشي والدوالي والمغلقة، وبالتالي تخفف من هذه المساحة. نحن لا نقول توقفها ولكن تخفف منها، كما تعمل أيضا بعض الجمعيات الهلال الأحمر فيها. من هنا لماذا نحن نحرص على ذلك؟ هذه القضية حقيقة من القضايا التي كانت وما تزال محل نقاش، ولعل الإنسانية العالمية التي كانت أكبر هذه الجمعيات المحلية. بلا شك هناك تخوف، ونتكلم بكثير من الشفافية أن هذه الجمعيات المحلية قادرة على أن تقوم بهذا الدور. هذا سؤال في محله. ثم كيف الرقابة والشفافية عليها؟ لأن الأشياء المطروحة الآن كيف يتم؟ أنا أعتقد أن الجمعيات الوطنية عندما نخصص لها مبلغ معين أو نسبة من هذه الدعم والتمويل أن بإمكانها أن تقوم بهذا الدور. أسباب: أولا لأنها تعرف البيئة وتعرف الثقافة وتعرف أيضا وسيكون أكثر قدرة عندما يأتيهم وتدريب تكلفة بنفس الوقت، فيما لو أتينا بمنظمات خارجية. وهذا لا يعني أن نستغني بالمنظمات والمؤسسات الخارجية، لا. الشيء العجيب في هذه المسألة وبالذات في هذه المنطقة أن أغلب أو أكبر الدول وهذا شيء كثيرا وبالذات دول الخليج موجودة في هذه المنطقة، والمآسي أيضا موجودة في منطقتنا. كيف أغلب المانحين وفي نفس الوقت أغلب أصعب الأزمات الإنسانية موجودة؟ هذا يحتم في الواقع علينا بالفعل أن نسعى نحن هنا بكل ما نملك من قوة من موارد بشرية ومالية أن نوطن هذا العمل. ومركز الملك سلمان اختياري لهذا الموضوع الحساس، وأتمنى أن تكون من توصياته والتركيز عليه في الأيام المقبلة يكون عملا وننفذ على أرض الواقع. وكنا مع زملائي في المنظمة الذين أشكرهم في الواقع يبحثون في هذا الموضوع منذ حوالي شهر، أن تأتي هذا الموضوع من أجل أن ينتجوا كتابا عمليا لكيف تطوير قدرات الجمعيات. لهذا أيضا نذكر بالأحمر بأن العمل الإنساني يجب أن يكون صناعة ومهارة وليس فزعة ونجدة وانتهى هذا الأمر. لأنه الآن للأسف الشديد لا تكاد تجد وطنا عربيا إلا وفيه أزمة إنسانية، أو البلد الذي بجواره أو البلد الذي بجوار جواره، مما يحتم أن نجعل هذه صناعة ومهارة نضرب عليها الأبناء. لدينا الآن في وطننا العربي على سبيل المثال في جمعيات الهلال الأحمر والصليب الأحمر أكثر من متطوع. هؤلاء العائلة تحتاج فقط إلى من يؤهلهم. فأنا أحيي فيك أخت نيفين على هذا السؤال، وأتمنى أن أكون أجبت على شيء من وآسف.
Mr. Carbonnier, when disasters happen, locals are the ones who dig with their hands. What is the type of disasters where local NGOs do better in relief than bigger agencies? And this, of course, includes natural disasters, wars, besieged areas, and what is the right time for international organizations to step in?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I wish to express my words of sincere appreciation to our hosts and the organizers. back to your question, which really goes to the heart of the localization debate, where we agreed to make humanitarian action local as this issue of what do we mean by as local as possible and as international as necessary, especially when it comes not only to humanitarian assistance, but also prevention and protection, and preventing violations of international humanitarian law. And as you all know, ladies and gentlemen, we can always learn from history. And look at the founding of the international movement of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. It's very interesting to see 155 years ago, Henri Dunant and Hicks, they came up with 3 ideas or 3 initiatives to protect war wounded in the battlefield. And the idea was really to leaving young men wounded on the battlefield, dying unattended. And the 3 ideas were very one, in each and every country, a national organization with local chapters that can occur to the war wounded. Intermediary that is able to operate on all fronts and all sides in the very polarized environment of armed conflict. And I think up to this day, we at the International Committee of the Red Cross, we share these 3 fundamental ideas. First, to recognize that national actors and local are the ones that before the crisis, during and after the crisis, they know the context best, and they are the first responders. And they need to be supported and assisted in the work of assisting and protecting their own communities. Second, the states party to a conflict and all parties to a responsibility to protect and assist the population under their own control. And thirdly, because of the extreme polarization that we especially in situation of armed conflict, because, Madam Chair, you mentioned natural disasters, and of course the situation is different. But in armed conflict, because of extreme polarization, also because of the widespread destruction of infrastructure, we see that sometimes local and national institutions have their ability impaired by the fact that maybe some infrastructure and facility, but also because of this polarization, the access that they enjoy on all sides of the may be limited and restrained. So this is